A long time ago, in a distant kingdom, an emperor grew old and tired. He had ruled wisely for decades, bringing peace, prosperity, and honor to his land. But as his strength faded, one painful question kept echoing in his heart. Who will guide my people after I am gone? He had wealth, he had armies, he had ministers and scholars. But he didn't want someone who was simply educated or powerful. He wanted someone with discipline, judgment, focus, and purpose. Someone who wouldn't be fooled by the distractions of the world. So he went to his royal sage. The sage bowed and said, "Your Majesty, books cannot measure a man's wisdom, and strength cannot test his character. You must test the mind. Only a focused mind can guide a kingdom." The emperor closed his eyes, thinking deeply. Then suddenly, he understood exactly what he had to do. The next morning, he made an announcement across the kingdom. Anyone who wishes to become the royal advisor must walk through the path of 1,000 doors. Whoever finds the door that leads to the palace before sunset will be chosen. The entire kingdom buzzed with excitement. Scholars prepared scrolls. Warriors sharpened their weapons. Merchants gathered charms for good luck. Even nobles joined the challenge. Among the crowd stood one man nobody expected, a poor woodcutter named Rayon. He had rough hands, simple clothes, and nothing that made him stand out. People laughed at him. What will a woodcutter advise the emperor? Go home, Rayon. You don't belong here. But Rayon stood quietly, saying nothing, his eyes steady. When the gates opened, thousands rushed into the great forest. Inside was a long path with countless doors on both sides. Some were carved with jewels. Some glittered like gold. Some looked old and cracked. Only one of them would lead to the palace. The emperor stood on a hilltop above the forest, observing every choice. The first door many travelers opened was the door of comfort. Inside was a warm cabin, soft beds, food, and fire. Tired men and women walked in saying, "Just for a moment," and never came out again. Next was the door of praise. Whoever opened it was greeted with cheering crowds, applause, and flattery. People stood there for hours, intoxicated by attention, forgetting the real purpose of the journey. Then came the door of quick riches, mountains of gold and jewels piled higher than the ceiling. Many entered and never returned to the path, blinded by greed. Further down was the door of competition. Inside, challengers shouted, "Fight me! Prove your strength! Show you're smarter!" People wasted hours trying to defeat each other, forgetting that the real enemy was time. Then came the darkest gate, the door of fear. Whoever entered was surrounded by illusions of their failures, shadows of their past, and voices that whispered their deepest insecurities. Many froze, unable to move. Beside it stood the door of regret. Through that door, people saw their past mistakes, lost opportunities, the moments they wished they could relive. Many came out crying, unable to continue. And so, with every door, more and more people got trapped. Not by force, but by their own weaknesses. But Rayon, he walked quietly through the forest, watching each door without being pulled by it. He saw the cozy cabin and whispered, "I didn't come here to rest." He heard the cheers and said, "A kingdom cannot be led by ego." He walked past the gold. Riches without purpose destroy a man. He ignored the competitions. My journey is not a race against others. He trembled at the door of fear, but did not open it. He turned away from regret. What is lost cannot be changed. Finally, at the far end of the path, hidden between grand arches of gold, was a plain wooden door. No carvings, no jewels, no lights. Just simplicity. The door of purpose. Rayon placed his hand on the handle and murmured, "If the goal is the palace, then only the straightest path matters." He opened the door, and at once, the forest vanished. He stood directly before the palace gates. The emperor, the sage, and the ministers were already waiting. The emperor smiled warmly and asked, "Rayon, thousands entered the path today. only you reach the palace. Why did you reject comfort, praise, riches, and shortcuts? Rayon bowed and said softly, because a person's future depends on the doors he chooses to open, and the doors he refuses to enter. The emperor nodded proudly. Then you know what most do not. The world is full of doors, but wisdom is choosing only the ones that lead to your destiny. And that day, the poor woodcutter became the royal counselor, the advisor to the emperor. In life, every one of us walks through our own path of 1,000 doors. Some tempt us with comfort, some distract us with attention, some pull us into competition, some fill us with fear, some trap us in regret. And most people open every door, except the one that leads to their goal. But if we stay focused, if we refuse distractions, if we choose discipline over temptation, we eventually find ourselves exactly where we are meant to be. That is how ordinary people become extraordinary. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow with another inspirational life lesson story.